Hi, so welcome to today's show. Today we've got Naomi back on and we're talking all about how to create a safety net if you're a sole trader using insurance. So thanks, Naomi. And as a reminder, you are a director of your own insurance brokerage, Heath Protection. So I'm self-employed. I'm not in a limited company, let's say. What should I be thinking about when I just get going?
So I think the first thing to think about for any sole trader is what happens with your income if you can't work, because your whole way of paying yourself is based on you being able to get up in the morning and go to work. So I think for sole traders, for people that are working for themselves, freelancers, what you're thinking about there is, okay, well, what happens next? What happens if I break my leg? What happens, if I'm diagnosed with cancer? And it really is, it's covering all sorts of eventualities, but income protection is there to protect you in case you can't work.
So if I can't do my particular job, that's quite an important thing, isn't it?
An occupation.
If I can't do my particular job due to any illness or injury, it's going to pay me out a monthly income tax-free.
Yes.
For me to just take time to get better. And what I like about a lot of income protections is they'll allow you, if you can do half the job because you're better-ish, but you couldn't be full-time, they'll pay you half as well, won't they? So they really do want to help you get back to work.
Yeah, they do a lot about sort of rehabilitation and getting you back into your job. When you look, all insurers are different, but lots of the insurers now do what you're talking about there, which is proportional payments. So they will pay you a portion based on you going back, and rehabilitation and support there. So yeah, they do. They want to support you as well, obviously getting back to work.
I know when I had an income protection as a sole trader, when I did my back in, for example, they'd pay, I think it was about half, I think it's about £35 for a physio appointment, up to, I think it was maybe £6 that I could claim. So it's more than just, they're also trying to prevent you from getting sick in the first place, aren't they?
Yeah,
they don't have to claim for a long time.
Yeah, I think because it makes sense for them as well, because they don't want people to be off long-term sick if they can help you back to work. So yeah, lots of the income protection policies now have also what's called added value benefits, which are included and give you access to different treatments.
And if I put myself into the shoes of a sole trader, when you're just starting out, you don't really feel you can afford very much. So I would recommend that people work out their pricing based on what they'd need to be as covered as they were when they were employed. So usually people are working and then go to become self-employed. You need to build into your hourly rate or your fee how much you need to pay in your pension, how much you need to make in profit, your income protection, critical illness, life cover, all those things you're used to in the employed world. You need to make sure that's factored in your costings, don't you?
Yeah, 100%.
But what can you do at the beginning just to keep insurance cheap?
I would say with income protection, you've got two options. And so it is worth having a conversation with an advisor to talk through what's the best option for you when you're first starting out. So you can have what we call full-term income protection, which means that you can have a unlimited amount of a claim. So if you were sick from today until retirement and your policy covered you until retirement, it would pay you a monthly sum every month until you retire.
Do you know, I actually met a man where he had a brain tumour, non-cancerous, but he was no longer able to do such a stressful job because he was quite senior, and his income protection payout for his whole career at his previous very high salary. Incredible. A life-changing diagnosis, but then life-changing that you have that safety net to never have to worry about money again.
Yeah, it is. It definitely, full-time income protection, if you can afford it, is so worthwhile, because when you look at the length of claims that some people make, it can be lengthy. You're looking at not being able to do your own occupation. So if something happens to you, which means that is now impossible, that's what the income protection policy said.
And isn't the average payout 7 years? I can't remember exactly, but it's longer than you think it would be.
The average term for claim with income protection is 7 years. And in LV's claims paid information that they released last year, their longest claim was for 38 years.
There's always that stat banded around that we're 1 or 2 paychecks away from being homeless,
Yeah.
the average person, because we just don't have enough in cash.
Yeah.
Imagine not having an income for 7 years or 38 years.
Yeah.
That would change your financial future completely,
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
would completely change your financial future. And people have far less, saved when you're first starting out. I know when I started my business, it's difficult, when you're having to balance all of the outgoings as a self-employed person, it can really eat into your savings. So what income protection is doing is making sure that your income is protected.
So I've got the 2 options: full payout for as long as until retirement, or what is a typical shorter term contract?
Yeah, so a short-term contract would be 2 years. So a typical short-term contract would be 2 years. So what that means is any single claim will only pay out for a maximum of 2 years. So if you're off sick for 3 years, it would pay out for the first 2 and then it would stop. If you're off for 18 months, there would be no effect to you because you've got up to 2 years. For
and what if I got sick again later on?
You can claim multiple times, and you could claim multiple times for 2 years, but there needs to be a gap in between. So, and you need to be back in full-time employment. So it is slightly different because what they're doing there is they're looking at, you've been off for 2 years, then you return to work, and then they'd be looking at how much you've been earning when you'd gone back for that year before you claimed again.
Yeah. I put short-term income protection in place for my mum because, well, she's my mum, so she's older than me. She was nearing retirement, and we just looked at the cost of the full protection versus the couple of years.
Yeah.
She was, say, 5 years away from retirement, and the cost was a lot less. So we just insured her for those 2 years and thought she'd just have to retire early. So I think it's about making it fit you and your budget, isn't it, at the beginning?
I think so. And also, what you'll find is, depending on your occupation, it's going to depend on how much you pay. So if you're doing a job which is more risky, so you're doing a job which is quite manual, the premiums might be more expensive than if you're doing a job, which is more administration.
Well, I always remember, I was surprised that teachers are always a class 3. So class 1's not risky.
Yeah.
Teachers, are they still a class 3?
Teachers are still more expensive, because I think what the insurers are also looking at is the likelihood of claim. So, unfortunately, I think teachers are stressed and take time off work, and therefore it is incorporated into the premium that you pay. Yeah.
And I think, isn't it, the biggest claimants are, first of all, anything to do with your skeleton, so bad backs, then mental health, and then you go on to the serious illnesses like cancer, heart attack, stroke.
Yeah,
so
about 60% of all claims are musculoskeletal and mental health.
I often find that people are a bit confused about what's the difference between income protection and critical illness, and which should you have as a sole trader if you could only have one.
Yeah, they are different, and they actually complement each other. You have, because with the income protection, you would have what we would call a deferred period at the beginning. So you might say, okay, well, I think I'll be okay for, say, 2 months or 3 months. You'd set your deferred period. And then the income protection would pay then after the deferred period and income up to 60% of what you're earning. And so that would pay you then monthly each month. With critical illness, what it's saying is, okay, this is a life-changing event. Like, you've been diagnosed with cancer, you've had a heart attack, or, stroke.
Something horrid.
Something really, really, horrid. And what it's saying there is, okay, here is a tax-free lump sum. It's paid on diagnosis, so it's paid fairly quickly. And then that policy finishes. And that money is yours to do with what you feel you need. So it could be to pay off part of your mortgage, could be to, pay for private treatment, could be to make some changes in your home because you need, you might need assistance or change to the structure of your house. So it really can be used for absolutely anything. So they complement each other because income protection will give you just enough to pay your bills, right? So that's what that's designed to do. And critical illness is designed to give you a larger lump sum to make some life-changing changes.
And if you could only have one, which one would you have as a sole trader?
I would have income protection.
Yeah, me too.
Because I think because it's based on any sickness, disability or accident, it's more, all encompassing as such. And also it gives you an income. And income is the first thing that you need. And
it's worth pointing out that if you have both and you are poorly enough to claim on both will pay out.
Yes.
They're not going to compete against each other.
Exactly that. So it's not like, oh, I'm claiming on my income protection, I can't have my critical illness. Yeah, if you were diagnosed with cancer, your critical illness policy would pay out. And then if you were off sick for a period of time, then your income protection would pay monthly.
And then what mistakes do you see that people make that you just wish they'd gone to a broker because they could have avoided it?
Yeah, I think people not understanding what they're buying, and I think income protection is a complex product. So I have clients that say, oh, I've been on a comparison site and I've done a quote and I can get my policy cheaper. And then they will send you the quotes and it's an age-costed policy. So
what does that mean?
Yeah, so by age-costed, what that's doing is it's giving you really cheap premiums or cheaper premiums upfront. And each year as you get older, the policy will increase based on your new age. So it is a type of reviewable policy. So the contracts that we would talk about usually with clients are what we call guaranteed premiums. So it might be slightly more expensive to begin with, but because it's a long-term policy, the overall premium is cheaper and you're guaranteed to know exactly what you're paying. And I think that could be a problem because people don't understand. It says no. You know, you wouldn't understand what age-costed means unless you work in the industry. It's jargon. So I think that is a big one. I think also people not understanding the importance of not over-insuring yourself. So the maximum you can have is 60% of your income. And if people are overestimating what you're going to earn, you could end up paying more than you can claim for, over-insuring yourself.
And I also think people would go on a comparison website, buy, say, accident, sickness and unemployment cover, which is only going to last a year.
Yes.
And they think they've bought a full-on income protection that's going to cover them for their whole working life.
Yeah, and also ASU or accident, sickness and unemployment isn't underwritten. So it's one of those general insurance policies where they're not asking all of the health questions up front, whereas with the types of insurance that we deal with, they are fully underwritten. So you know that as long as you've answered all the questions correctly, that you are fully covered.
And I think you mentioned that 6% of self-employed people have income protection.
Yeah.
Do you think that's just based on cost alone? They think it's too expensive, or is it just time?
I think we don't talk enough about income protection, and unless you're going for a mortgage, I don't really think people are talking about it. So
maybe they don't know it exists.
Exactly. Unless you're talking to your accountant and your accountant's been proactive and saying, you've just started a business, you need to think about your income. I don't know where you would get that advice.
And if I didn't want to use a broker, how would I even begin to get my head around the small print? Are there any resources out there that can compare the terms and conditions of one provider with another?
I don't really think there is. I mean, we do a lot of work with our clients, talking them through the differences in contracts. I mean, you can go on a comparison sites and it will give you...
Well, it's supposed to compare price, won't it?
Compare price,
but not
and it
quality.
might give you a bit of information, but it's not going to talk to you about the real nuts and bolts of that policy and what it actually does.
And anything else you can think of that we should mention for our sole trader audience?
Private medical insurance, I think, is another one, because I think if you can't get into work because you've injured yourself or you need an operation, I think that is a really valid type of insurance. We're seeing a lot more people coming to us for private medical insurance. And I think that's because the waiting lists are so long or perceived to be long for the NHS. Depends on what you're having, what operation you need as well, to how, minor or major. If it's a minor operation, you could be waiting a lot longer, but that may mean that you can't do your job while you're off. So I think really assessing and thinking about the impact of those things happening to you. So I think that those I think are the major ones.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time, Naomi.
Thanks, Lisa.